Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard. We are heading into week 9 with the NFL. We're around about at mid-season, about to cross into mid-season. So from now on, it counts. So Smokey, how are you doing?
I am good. I am better than Jets fans right now because that team absolutely looks snake bit. There's got to be a curse, right, on the Jets. Man, it's really bad.
Like, seems like
it doesn't matter what pieces they put out on the field. They just can't get it together, and it's been, 50 years of this now? Like, it's getting ridiculous. Like, you kind of, I don't know how many people out there actually kind of cheer for the Jets. Like, come on, you got to get it together at some point, right? Like the Lions or the Browns, you kind of like, you want to see them do good at some point, but doesn't seem that they're ever going to get it together. So I feel bad for Jets fans, but I am doing better than them. How are you, Alex?
Well, the Jets had one good season right around about 2008 with Mark Sanchez, where they somehow just managed to get to the AFC Championship game. Mm-hmm. But before and after that, you're right, not a whole lot of success. I'm good. I'm better than Bears fans, still because of last week. The Hail Mary they gave up at the end of the game I saw live. It was, just amazing. That was honestly fantastic. I don't understand why so many teams in this situation nowadays don't throw a Hail Mary, rather they do this like underneath, like hook and ladder thing. Like, they're so much more straightforward. Throw it in the end zone. Unless they're blitzing, which they never do. You have like 10 seconds. And they never call a holding, by the way, on a Hail Mary. And unless they're blitzing, just throw a Hail Mary. If you can get it to the end zone, almost every time when there's a Hail Mary, the ball does not just drop to the ground. And there's 8 people going after it. It's going to get tipped up somewhere. And you kind of have a 50-50 chance a lot of the time to just have something like that happen. So I think a lot more teams will start going for the old, like the classic Hail Mary again after seeing this. Maybe even get some strategy ideas from it. Yeah, but better than Bears fans, I think they still have not fully recovered, but they have to be. They have to be recovered soon because they're playing this week. So let's see what we have for week 9. Before that, though, how is the standing of our prediction looking?
Oh yeah, I didn't add in last night's game. Let me do that. I don't really want to talk about this because I'll go ahead. We disagreed on 2. You won both of them. Here's the thing. I'm not mad about the Falcons winning. I'm absolutely glad about that. It was kind of cognitive dissonance there. I was watching the game like I picked against the Falcons, but I really want them to win. So,
yeah.
It wasn't that painful when it happened. So it is what it is. And the Bucs absolutely were not themselves without their 2-star wide receivers, of course. But the other one was the Cards and the Dolphins. Now, I was 100% sure that I had this game in the bag almost the entire game. The Dolphins looked good. Their offense was firing again, but it just didn't work out in the very end. So you got that one. You bet on your rivals and won. So you got 2 extra points.
Somehow.
Yes. Total for me was only 8 on the week and 10 on the week for you. Let me add that to our former scores. Dang. I got a lot of catching up to do. Well, luckily we are right at halfway through the season, so that's going to bring me to 77 on the season and 84 for you.
Sounds good. Yeah, Cardinals should not have won that game. Maybe you can take a page out of the playbook of a certain political party, and in like week 17, 10 points fall out of the sky on your side, and maybe you end up winning by a slim margin. Yeah. I'm sure you can orchestrate that somehow.
We should take some polls on who's going to win, and
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's 50-50 right now. Chances are 50-50. Exactly. I'm only leading by points. Who knows what's under the table, right? Exactly. Let's see if I can make it too big to rig here going into week 9. Starting off with the Texans and the Jets.
Yep, the snake bit Jets right here. And yep, like I said earlier, they're not looking good. And you would think with the pieces they have out on the field, they should be winning. I understand they were at the Patriots last week, but it's the Patriots. And Drake May was injured in this game. You had every chance to win this game, and you just couldn't do it against a beaten and battered, lowly Patriots. I mean, this is probably the worst Patriots team we've seen in the past 25 years or so. Maybe even longer than that. You know, the Drew Bledsoe years, they were better. Yeah, I mean, last year wasn't good either, but this year is even worse for the Patriots, and somehow they still get a win over the Jets. It seems like everybody's going to. Texans, on the other hand, did squeak out their win against their rivals, the Colts, and that was a tough game, though. I expected the Colts to win by, the Texans to win by much more than that. They barely squeaked it out, and C.J. Stroud does not look like an MVP right now, which we didn't talk about the MVP. Maybe we should do that at the end or something, but yeah, definitely. Texans, they got their win, and I guess that's all that counts in the end, but it wasn't a spectacular showing. But it's the Jets, like I said. I'm going to be taking the Texans on the road.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I'm taking Texans as well. I don't know. The Jets, I'm kind of running out of really explanations for why it's turning out the way it's turning out. Of course, we have like an organization that's a history of being dysfunctional from the top down, and it always reflects in the team. But I think there's just an issue with chemistry like going on here. You have like a bunch of big name players, like what you would think is an all-star team, or at least offensively. Defensively, they've been underperforming, but a relatively solid offensive side of the ball kind of thrown together. Disregarding the offensive line has been terrible, and maybe that's a big part of the issue that just went unaddressed. But it just doesn't seem like the chemistry is there at the offense with Aaron Rodgers and his receivers. You see so many miscommunications. You see wrong routes. You see drop passes. You see people just like being in a completely different spot, just quarterback, receiver, completely on a different page. The run game doesn't help much. Like I said, the offensive line is not looking good. It's just an organizational failure from top to bottom, failing to make anything of the opportunity they have with the people that are in the building. And I don't really see that being something that's going to change now with the head coaching turbulence. You don't even know who's going to be there in the future. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to hightail it out of there as soon as possible and hopefully go to Minnesota to fulfill the prophecy, but anywhere will do except the Jets. Texans win this one. No worries. I think it's going to be an easy win. Cowboys at the Falcons.
Yeah. Hey, maybe you can help me out. Do you know some inside information? Why on two of the logos on NFL.com, they're showing the old school logos?
Because they're doing throwback jerseys.
Oh, okay.
They've been doing that. NFL.com is up to date with that kind of stuff. Now, if you look at last week, I think they did the same thing.
Okay. So I didn't even notice that.
So we're expecting the Eagles. We're expecting the Eagles, and who else
Green
is
Bay.
it? Packers.
Yeah.
Green Bay, yeah. We're expecting those teams to show up in throwback this weekend.
This whole season they've been doing that, and I guess it slipped right by me, huh?
I think so.
Wow. Okay, I mean, I noticed the old school uniforms, those creamsicle uniforms on the Bucs.
Yeah.
You know,
they had the Bucs last year. They had it. The logo was that way last week.
I guess it just did not register with me. But the Falcons and the Cowboys, like I said, speaking of the Bucs, the Falcons got the win over them without their superstar wide receivers, and the Falcons look like world beaters again. You know, the defense is not that great because you should have held them to a little less points, but apparently they have a superstar tight end now. Apparently every team in the NFL has a superstar tight end, at least last week because it was National Tight Ends Week. If you watch Red Zone, they told you that 500 times. But speaking of tight ends, Kyle Pitts got a couple touchdowns. One of them, people are saying, shouldn't have been a touchdown because he dropped the ball right before he crossed the line, but they gave it to us anyway. So we paid off the refs, and it worked. Finally worked in our favor this time. The Cowboys look horrible, man. I'm glad you guys got that win because I expected the 49ers to win, and the 49ers have been struggling a lot lately, but guess who's struggling more? It's the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are going on the road here. Over the past few seasons, they've struggled on the road, which is another tick in the favor of the Falcons here. The Falcons have lost some games at home this season, so it's not like, you know, this is a guaranteed win or anything, but they should be favored in this game, and you wouldn't have thought so before the season started that the Falcons would be favored, but I'm assuming as of right now they have to be favored by at least 3 points. I think the Falcons are going to get this win at home. I'll take the Falcons.
Give me the Falcons as well. Last week was like a record week for tight end receptions, right? The most receptions by tight ends in the NFL history week for National Tight Ends Day. You can't tell me that offensive coordinators don't know that it is National Tight Ends Day and that they are in fact playing into it. I promise you, they're they're doing that on purpose, and to some degree, it has to be. But yeah, Cowboys look terrible. We're all glad about it. They got blown out. Don't let the score line fool you. I stayed up all night for the sake of science, and I watched that game. They were getting blown out for 50 minutes, and then of course the garbage time Hall of Famer Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense came back with two within one score when it was too late. But they were terrible. They looked terrible. The Falcons should finish them off here, and this is legitimate playoff jeopardy now. The Cowboys are going to have a losing record after this week. They're not going to look good at all. The Eagles are doing good. The Commanders are doing good. Man, Dallas isn't going anywhere this year, and we might see some bigger changes happening there sooner rather than later. Take the Falcons. Broncos and Ravens.
Yeah, surprises for both of these. The Broncos got yet another win, and the Ravens got a loss somehow to the Browns, man. I guess a quarterback change was all that the Browns needed, right? Kind of sparked them, Maybe it's the 2-game quarterback bump for the Browns here, but the Ravens take the loss, and Lamar just couldn't put it together like he usually does. I thought for sure once his passes were not working on the field that Lamar gets angry sometimes in games, and he just says, I'll go do it myself, and he takes off running. Now, I saw this late in this game where he started doing that, but then he went back to the passes that just weren't working out, so they ended up taking the L in the end, and it's got to be kind of embarrassing because it was the Browns and Jameis Winston, but I expect they should get it back together here. Now, the Broncos are no pushover. That defense is absolutely legit, and Bo Nix is throwing his name into contention for Rookie of the Year here. So that does make it kind of tough, but I'm assuming being in Baltimore, the Ravens should get back on track. This might be a close one, though, because I do believe that the Broncos are picking up steam right now, but I'll still stick with the Ravens at home.
As impressive as Bo Nix has been, and he has been, I think Rookie of the Year is done. That is over. Any other year, maybe he might be the favorite now. I think, barring some catastrophic drop-off, Jaden Daniels has that one solved. But this game's intriguing, right? The Broncos are kind of surging. They're looking good. I wouldn't have expected this to be close in any way, but he kind of lost to the Browns, and you're going to have to deal with some skepticism in the following week. Of course, Jameis, the savior once again, and I completely forgot that he was on the Browns, and I legitimately think that he's just a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson today, right now in the NFL. I think it's good for the Browns that they made that change. Maybe the Ravens got stumped by it. Maybe they weren't prepared. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt one more time. And I'm taking the Ravens to win the game because they're the better roster. But Denver is not the kind of team you want to underestimate or kind of just not show up on 100% against, because they have something going there with Bo Nix. Something's working out for the Broncos, and you really can't be caught sleeping. I do trust Baltimore to get back on track, though. Dolphins and Bills.
Yeah, the Dolphins should have won that game. The offense was absolutely working once again. Wasn't until, they pulled it in the second half, Arizona did, but they were pretty much dominating the first half of the game, Miami was. But, man, the defense is going to have to pull it together if they're going to have any chance. So they're sitting at 2-5 right now. And I know with Tua, you have a legitimate hopes of the playoff here, but it's not going to happen if you can't stop these teams from scoring against you. And, man, it's going to be tough if every game needs to be a shootout, because Tua is a great quarterback and he plays really well with a lead. Now, I don't trust him to win just shootout after shootout like some of the high-powered, like the Josh Allens and whatnot, but man, and speaking of Josh Allen, I think this is going to be another loss for the Dolphins here. I think the Bills are on fire right now. Josh Allen finally threw in an interception, but
he did.
It doesn't take too much away from him, though. Still probably this year at least top 3, if not the best quarterback in the league. I'll be taking the Bills at home.
Yeah, I can agree on that. It should be more competitive than we thought it would be before, because the Dolphins' offense looked good, but ultimately the Bills are just a better team. Josh Allen's just a better quarterback, and they're playing at home. They will get it done. Saints and the Panthers.
Tank Bowl. I like that. I like that this is this is a
You like
tank
that a
bowl.
lot, yeah.
Yeah, this is a wonderful game right here. It makes me wonder if Derek Carr is able to get back for this one. I haven't heard too much news about Derek Carr getting back on the field yet, so I'm assuming it's going to be Spencer Rattler versus Bryce Young. Wow, does that not whet your appetite right there? Spencer Rattler versus Bryce Young right here. These two teams are at the bottom of the barrel. I've been seeing power rankings where both of these teams are dead last and next to last. And usually the Panthers are the ones that are dead last. And the Saints are following that up now. So if they don't pull off some magic, get Derek Carr in there, their season is over at this point. I mean, maybe they can, like those first 2 games of the season, maybe they can get Derek Carr back out there and put a few wins together. I don't really want to see it personally, but it is possible, I guess. But in this one, it's the Panthers. The Panthers are the worst team in the league, so I'm guessing I'm taking the Saints on the road.
Yeah, I mean, Saints too. Don't expect to see Spencer Rattler. Remember, he was pulled last week for Jake Haener, and I'm guessing that if Derek Carr can't make it this week, we're just going to see the Jake Haener show. I think the NFL has seen enough of Spencer Rattler, honestly, and I don't blame him one bit because I had before he ever took a single snap. The Saints are probably going to run some some experiments there. Panthers just, I mean... There's nothing to say about the Carolina Panthers. Give me the Saints to win this one. Panthers are headed for another first overall pick, it seems. The Raiders and the Bengals.
I couldn't imagine saying, if it's going to be Jake Haener saying, oh, this will be an easy win for Jake Haener. Like, you don't expect to win a single game with Jake Haener, but that's a symptom of the Panthers.
I don't expect anyone to win a game with anyone here.
Exactly. They might both lose this one.
No.
We have a tie, 0-0. The Raiders and the Bengals. Man, the Raiders are another team that's sitting on the bottom of the barrel right now. You got eat up by the Chiefs. It was actually closer than I thought it would be because the Chiefs' defense, for some reason, is not holding like they were at the beginning of the season. But just rest assured that the Chiefs are always going to outscore you no matter what you put up. So it is what it is. On the other side of this game, though, the Bengals are up and down, in my opinion. They should have beaten the Eagles. It shouldn't have been that hard. They were at home, but they let that game get away from them. I've said all season that their defense is a big problem for them, but the offense has not been scoring like they were. I'm not even sure what the problem is there. They were putting up 30 points a game for like the first 5 or 6 games of the season, and here they are stuck in the teens for the past few. And if your defense is going to let the other team score over 30 points, you're not going to win a lot of games that way. Man, if Joe Burrow has any chance at an MVP run, which is slipping away very quickly because you have to have wins to win the MVP, this is going to have to be a get-right game. You're back at home. It's not the Eagles. Should be an easy game. Let's take the Bengals at home.
Yeah, he'll have a chance at the MVP, but it's not this season. This season, you can kind of forget about it at this point, the way it's been going. Team's just not good enough around him, but I will still take them to win this one here against the Raiders. I think the Raiders are always overvalued after a game against Kansas City, win or lose, because they just somehow have the little bit of kryptonite we saw last year as well. They beat Kansas City late in the season, but they are generally the much inferior team. It's just one of those things where it's just, kind of a poison rivalry thing. And so they had a good game, probably one of their best of the season. Expect them to come back to reality relatively quickly, and I'm going to take the Bengals. Chargers and the Browns.
Yeah, the Chargers looked great. That was a really good game, but it was against the Saints, so I guess make of that what you will. But yeah, if the Chargers could play like that and Ladd McConkey is on fire like that for the rest of the season, I mean, they have a winning record right now. It might break the curse here, It might break the Phillip Rivers curse. Yeah. I would like to see it, man. I kind of root for the Chargers. But how lethal are the Browns going to be with Jameis Winston? I mean, is this a serious thing, or was that just a case, like you said, of we switched up the quarterback and the team was not prepared for that? They were expecting Deshaun Watson, but they got Jameis Winston and took the L. It does make that tough, though. I mean, they're in Cleveland, and Nick Chubb is going to be getting more and more healthy as the weeks go on. His percentages are going up, man. He's probably going to start taking hold of some games here. But for right now, I'm going to say that it was a fluke and take the Chargers on the road. But I wouldn't be surprised if somehow the Browns pull this one off. But I'll stick with the Chargers.
Yeah, this one's super hard to pick, and it really shouldn't be. But it is because of what the Browns just did. And with the quarterback change, we just don't really know. Is it just really Jameis Winston so much better and everything just clicks and suddenly they're just a much better team, as it turns out they have been the whole time? I will, like, for potential reasons, if anything, I'll take the Chargers, right? Because they're more reliably been better than the Browns this year. And maybe some of that new quarterback thing will wear off. I still expect the Browns to be better, more effective offensively with Jameis going forward, and Nick Chubb is back in the lineup, by the way. That helps. But ultimately I'll take the Chargers. You gotta be happy for McConkey, right?
Oh, yeah, he looks great. I worried about that because he's not a big guy. He's undersized. He was not a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He was a walk-on, and he just happened to stick it out at Georgia and got better each season until he became a legitimate college football superstar. He's very fast, very agile. He can catch, he's got great hands. It's really surprising because he was not supposed to be that coming out of high school, but here he is, and he looks legit in the NFL, so... This may be...
Kind of a Wes Welker situation.
Yeah, I was going to say Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, because you have to compare him to the other white guys. That's just how that
obviously.
But yeah, he may end up being legit in the end. So yeah, he's looking good.
Yeah, take the Chargers. Washington's at the Giants.
Oh man, the Giants. I guess it's Andrew Thomas. I guess that's what it is. I don't know. I don't have any faith in the Giants anymore. I secretly rooted for them for so long. They kind of got destroyed. I mean, that game was ugly, though, the Monday night game. Mostly field goals over and over and over again. No one could actually really get in the end zone. George Pickens got in the end zone, and they called it back. So, but the Giants are horrible. They're sitting at 2-6, man. I don't know. I really don't know what to make of it. I'll take the opposite of the Giants in this game.
Yes, I'll also take the opposite of the Giants in this game, especially because it is the Washingtons, and they look good. Pulled off a crazy Hail Mary. They'll be coming flying high. They're top dogs in their division, which I don't even remember the last time that happened. They're looking good with Jane Daniels. So, yep, give me Washington. Patriots and Titans.
Yep, the Patriots got the win. I don't know if Drake Mays is going to be out there. From what I'm hearing, it's not that serious, so I'm expecting him to come back. And they do look slightly better. I will give them the credit. The Patriots look slightly better when Drake May is out there than they were with Jacoby Brissett. And they have that going for them. They also have that the Titans are absolutely horrible. They're down there with the Panthers, and some people are putting them right there at the bottom of the power rankings. So I don't guess it really matters if it's Mason Rudolph or Will Levis. The Titans are just bad. I mean, Calvin Ridley got going in this one. That was the only bright spot on the whole team. Calvin Ridley's been pretty bad all season, and last season for that matter. But this one game, he absolutely showed up. Had like 26 yards or whatever it was. It was a pretty high number, maybe even in the 130s, but that's not going to save the Titans. They don't have the quarterback play. They came out firing hard and just fell apart. I'm guessing the Patriots do this through whichever quarterback they throw out there and the defense. I'll take the Patriots.
Yeah, tough game again. I do struggle with these games where we have two teams that are not supposed to be all that great. See, the Titans, I liked what the Titans did with Mason Rudolph offensively in the first quarter. Right? They came out and they looked more competent than they had before. But of course, defensively, it was one of the greatest disasters that's happened so far this season. Hard to recover from that. The Patriots themselves, not a good team, but they're coming off of a win. Yeah, I'll take the Patriots, I guess. It's purely based on last week. I don't think there's not much between those two teams quality-wise, but Patriots have the momentum, so I'm going to give them that win. Bears and Cardinals.
This is a tough one for me. If you judge strictly from last week, you got to go with the Cardinals, right? Especially being at home. I don't believe in the Cardinals, though. I don't think they're really that good, and the Bears have a legitimate pass defense. I mean, you showed that. I mean, Jaden Daniels is absolutely legit, and they shut him down. I mean, not completely, but, they held him to much less than he had been getting most all of the season. So there's something to be said for that Bears defense. Don't really believe, I mean, they have superstar wide receivers all over the field, so they should be firing. But the Commanders' defense itself is not that great, and they couldn't put together a ton of touchdowns, which I expected them to. I expected that game to be a shootout, but they took the L in the end by 3 points, so it is what it is. I don't know if I really... Man, you know what? I'm going to say I believe in the Cardinals even less. This may be one that we differ on, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I think it's out on a limb. Taking the Bears on the road.
Yeah, this is not an easy game for me at all. Of course, not a big fan of either team, and both of them were in close ones last week. I'll go home team here. I think that's honestly going to be the tiebreaker for me. I'm going home team, so I'll give it to Arizona. I don't want them to win because obviously the NFC West is incredibly close. They're all within a game of each other, like half game actually. It seems like everyone's 4-4. And it's, Cardinals losing would be very valuable to the 49ers. This is, by the way, like never seen a division so incredibly mediocre in all of its aspects, like at mid-season. It doesn't get any more mediocre than this. But I'll take the Cardinals because they are at home. But I'm silently rooting for the Bears here for sure. Jaguars and the Eagles.
And the AFC South is kind of mediocre too. Now that you mentioned that, you have the Texans are kind of a bright spot. I don't think they're quite as good as their record though. But the Jaguars have struggled all season. They're rolling into this at 2-6, and sometimes their offense clicks and sometimes it just doesn't. But speaking of defenses, they also have one of the worst defenses. Like the Eagles are coming off of that 37-point win over the Bengals, who has a not legitimate defense also. So they can put up a ton of points when they face a soft defense. And this is a very soft defense. So I would like... The Jags is another one of those underdogs that I like to pull for sometimes. And I've always liked Trevor Lawrence. But, man, it makes me wonder if this season continues going the way it is. Not only is Doug Peterson getting fired, that's almost obvious at this point, but I fear for his future as a starting quarterback, or at least he gets traded. I don't know, like Tony Khan or Shad Khan is gonna pull something here. They're not just gonna sit back and let this team go 3-4 wins a season over and over again. I'll take the Eagles at home.
Yup, give me the Eagles. Jacksonville's it's not looking great. Don't know what to really make of them. Eagles had a very good performance. You have to commend them for that against the Bengals. We were not sure about that game at all. We thought it would be a very close affair last week. Jaguars at least looked competent offensively, but still it's a team effort. You still couldn't get it together, get it done against Green Bay with the backup quarterback. Don't believe in them. I will take Philadelphia. They're at home as well, and apparently they're playing throwback, so they're going to be in the bright greens, which is usually pretty cool. The Lions and the Packers.
This would be a great game, as with every game seems to be in that division when they face each other. This would be a really good game, and it's in Green Bay, so I think the Lions are just a better team overall, but the Packers are absolutely formidable, and Jordan Love is making his push also. I don't think he's quite going to make it into MVP level, but on the other side of the field, Jared Goff may be, if not sitting at number 1 in the MVP rankings, at least in the top 3 at this point. Man, I expect this to be a close game. It's not going to be a blowout like last week. The Lions absolutely rolled over them. But this should be a close game. And being in being And it gives me a little bit of pause, having home field advantage. But the Lions are a slightly better team. I'll be taking the Lions.
It's going to be Mudville with how the Packers are going to be looking in the throwback uniforms. But I agree with what you said. Lions are, in most power rankings, the number one team this week. And after that complete whooping of the Titans last week, it really looks like the Lions are on top of the NFC, and they firmly cemented themselves. And I think right now they should be quite clearly the favorites to, in fact, win the championship, which they should have done last year, if we're being honest. And I have to even say that as a 49ers fan, the Lions should have won that game. But just this year, they're looking great. They've proven themselves. They've beaten the Vikings. And I think they're going to go out and beat the Packers and assert themselves as top dogs of the division, or top cats, I guess. Rams and the Seahawks.
So after that drubbing of the Falcons, the Seahawks come back home and get drubbed by the Bills. I really didn't believe. I think that was a fluke game. I think they just happened to pull it together. Now, whenever Kenneth Walker is on point and getting those massive runs, this team can absolutely pull off wins. Now, here's the problem with this one. Stafford has his 2-star wide receivers back out on the field, and this is a completely different team with those two components. That offense absolutely works with those two. Is it going to be able to travel? I'm assuming so, right? And this is not a difficult team to beat if you come with the right game plan. I think this offense gets rolling here. I think the Seahawks go down again. Like I said, the only way the Seahawks are going to pull this off is to get Kenneth Walker making those huge chunk plays that he does. But I don't think it happens here. I'm taking the Rams on the road.
This one's tough for me to pick also, because obviously this is a meteorite game for me, and I would prefer both teams would manage to lose this one. I'm actually taking Seattle here, and that's wishful thinking. And I can explain why that is because I don't think Seattle is as big of a threat to win the division than the Rams are suddenly. For some reason, they looked like the worst team at the start, but they unfortunately beat the 49ers with the incredible set of insane circumstances that happened, similar to the Cardinals game, like a 1 in 1,000 situation, but it did happen, and they're going to play them again. Out of all three teams, I'm the most confident the Niners will beat the Seahawks again. The other two, less so. So I actually want the Seahawks to beat the Rams and Cardinals, so that it kind of evens out a little bit more. And ultimately, when the Niners get healthier and healthier after Week 10, they should, by all intents and purposes, they should run away with it. They are by far the best roster in the division, and they should still go out and be able to ultimately get it done. But I would prefer Seattle actually to have a win up on the Rams because I'm more confident against them myself. So I'm taking the Seahawks to stop the bleeding. Colts and the Vikings.
Yeah, speaking of stopping the bleeding, after that magnificent start to the season, the Vikings are coming off of 2 losses back to back, and one of them being to the Rams, who kind of put one over on them on prime time on a Thursday night. And this has to be the get-right game for them. I did see that Anthony Richardson is not starting this game. They're going to go back to Joe Flacco. So that basically means, like, we've given up off the playoffs this year. We just don't want to be embarrassed. And Anthony Richardson is probably going down as a draft bust. He's the next Trent Richardson in that vein right there. So I don't think Anthony Richardson is a starting quarterback any longer. I think they probably try to finish out the season and, put together something mediocre for the rest of the season and maybe go 8-8 or something like that, or 8-9 at this point. The Vikings have to get it together. They're going to take this one at home.
Agreed. Vikings get it done. Colts are starting Joe Flacco. So new page is turning, and I wonder what's happening there in the offseason, because this is not just for one game. This is supposed to be for the season, from what I've heard. They've announced that, hey, we're making this change. We're making it permanent for this entire season. So Joe Flacco, maybe he's going to do a Browns kind of run and then turn it and get it turned around one more time. It's certainly possible. But for now, I'm thinking Minnesota looks like the better team. They should be able to get this win in the books. Of course, they were robbed on Thursday night last week with an frankly unbelievable officiating decision at the end. Probably the most. I'm not. This is not an overstatement, by the way. The most obvious penalty of the season so far. That was just not called in the most critical of situations. This is the first thing I said after this is like the owners are going to get together after the year and they're going to talk about like putting another little foam padding around players' helmets and pretending that it does anything about concussions, which it doesn't. What should be the top priority on the agenda is like just radical officiating reform. That's what the NFL truly needs in order to survive, because it's simply just beyond any reasonable discussion how bad the quality of officiating in the NFL has gotten, and college football is not lacking far behind. Something that has to be addressed, and I sincerely hope that it does. But Vikings are the better team. It's kind of a tangent, but the Colts should not be able to keep up with them, so Vikings win at home. And finally, Monday night, we have the Bucs and Chiefs.
I want to make a prediction. Maybe within the next decade, AI reffing is coming into play at some point.
Gotta be something.
They're going to take the human element out of it at some point.
Other sports are doing it all the time and have been for so long. Mm-hmm. Why can they not use some kind of technology, like something, tool? I don't know.
Yeah, especially for first downs. Like, that's not that hard. You put a chip in the marker, you put a chip in the ball. First down, we know exactly, no doubts. But the Bucs versus the refs. Speaking of, man, the Bucs are struggling without their two superstars. Like I said multiple times already in this episode, I don't think they have a shot here. I think this was going to be all Chiefs. I will say Patrick Mahomes played a little bit better this past week, but he's not MVP caliber at all. Still up there in the odds, which makes absolutely no sense, but definitely not playing like a top 10 quarterback this season. But it is the refs. They are at home. Taylor Swift will get the win right here at home.
Yeah, it can't be any different, right? I mean, look, leave it to the Bucs to pull this one off, but it's hard to beat the refs. And I'm not even, honestly, it's turning into less and less of a joke at this point with Kansas City. It's rough, but Chiefs get it done. Chiefs went home. They are the better team. Defensively, at least, they should definitely be able to keep the Bucs in check. And if they're not, then there's probably some help on the way from other sides as well. Like Chiefs get it done. So we have the Steelers and Niners on a bye week. As for the Niners, that is a very, very much a good piece of news. I think the Steelers will also be happy with having a bye week just about in the middle of the season, which is usually about the best time that teams would like to have a bye. How many disagreements do we have this week?
We have 2 this week, much like last week. Yep, we have the Bears and Cardinals. We have the Rams and Seahawks. So divisional guys for you.
Both of my divisional rivals are my disagreements. Okay, that cannot possibly spell good luck for me. So this is probably a week where you're going to make up some points.
Hopefully so. Yeah, this is where I start my comeback, because we are at the halfway point in the season right now. Yeah,
it's about time now. It's urgent. That is certainly correct. All right, well, let's talk about the MVP thing, because we didn't do it at the start, and we're going to have out the poll again. If you want to go vote, you can check out the channel community page. There's going to be an updated poll every week asking you who is the current MVP frontrunner for the season. You can give us your opinion. This week, I guess I'll go first. I'm kind of getting closer and closer to narrowing this down to 3 very realistic candidates. And it's something we spoke about for the last 2 to 3 weeks. When can we narrow it down from sort of 8 names to like maybe 5 or 6 or maybe even like 3 or 4? I have a pretty clear shortlist now. I've got Lamar, I've got Josh Allen, I have Jared Goff. Those are my top 3, and I think there's sort of like a little bit of a space under there, and then you get your Burrows, your Mayfields, your Darnolds, those, and Jaden Daniels. Those are the players where they're in the running, but for each of them there's a reasonably good argument against them, or why it probably would not be them, as opposed to one of those top 3. That's sort of the situation I'm looking at. How about you?
Well, exactly what I have written down on my paper right here in front of me is the case you just made. There are only 3 names that can be listed right now. Yes, those guys can, make a run for it if something crazy happens. But if those three continue, they are going to distance themselves from the field. Jared Goff, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. 13 TDs to 4 interceptions for Jared Goff. 14 TDs to 1 interception for Josh Allen. And 17 TDs to 2 interceptions for Lamar Jackson. Those are the three guys that are playing like MVPs right now. And then it's that bottleneck, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, CJ Stroud, Kirk Cousins, Jaden Daniels, which Jaden Daniels is playing like he should be there, but he's the rookie, and he's not quite on that level of the top three, but he's probably ahead of that pack right now. But then you have Jalen Hurts, which a lot of people are going to start throwing back in there just because it's Jalen Hurts, and the Eagles have a lot of fans, and, his work ethic, people like him, Brock Purdy, But yeah, those three, that's all it can be right now. I can't even make a case for any of those other guys to be in that list.
I would say those three versus the field should be close to 75% favored. That is one of those three at this point. I think at halfway through the season. It's actually quite a decent margin considering the last few years we did not have it narrowed down to this amount of players with this amount of certainty for a long time at around halfway point of the season. We were sitting here week 12 and we were very realistically talking about 5 to 7 names. I think there's a good chance that's not going to happen this week or this year. I think these three have established themselves, and on top of being the best in terms of stats, they're also winning. The teams are winning games, and they're overcoming challenges, and they're all looking very good, and they're looking like real playoff contenders. I do think that some things will get mixed up here and there. You're gonna see someone like Joe Burrow potentially have a very good second half of the season. You're gonna see a lot of potential names kind of rising up the ranks. But for now, it does look like these three have sort of put a little bit of distance between themselves and the rest of the pack. And among those three, by the way, you can kind of order them however you want. Right now, I don't think any one of those three would be a bad pick. If the season ended today, I think they all have a reasonable argument in favor of them. So those are my three. But I'm curious to see what the community vote is looking like this week. If it's shifted a lot, if we're going to see the same pattern that we just talked about also reflected in the public opinion, or if there's some other idea, some other candidate that they think might be relevant. So I'll be posting that. You can go vote on the community page for your the channel community page for your MVP favorite. Do we have anything to add for this week's episode?
No, I guess that's it for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Drop us a like, and we will see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard, ha, check.